Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. Are positive thoughts stronger than negative thoughts? Who wins in the end in the battle of good and evil when it comes to negative thoughts and positive thoughts? Which has more strength? Really, I think the question in of itself is kind of flawed from the get-go, but it's a great question. So hang on. I don't mean that in any bad way. Let me clarify real quick. Really, it's a focus-based universe, right? So whatever you focus on is what your reality becomes, right? Whether positive, negative, good, bad, up, down, up, left, right, front, back, right? It is what it is. It's what you're focusing on. It's what you're creating. But to the point of the question, because it's a great question, if I spend 5% of my time thinking bad thoughts about this particular thing, or negative thoughts, or fear thoughts, or whatever, lack thoughts, or lack of a whatever, right? Or, and I should say, I spend 5% of the time thinking about it from a positive standpoint. Who would win? Would they tip? Would the scales start to balance this way or that? Like, I don't know, 5%, which one weighs more? A pound of feathers, a pound of bricks. Oh my God, they're both a pound. They weigh the same. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? They frankly do weigh the same. It comes down to that level of how much focus are you putting on it? Now, what really starts to come into play, not whether one's better than the other, it comes down to that level of emotion when we're thinking about them. All right, so now we've got something to compare. 5% of the time, 5% of the time. All right, okay, cool. So 5% of the time you were thinking this can't happen. 5% of the time you were thinking this can happen. Now, when you were thinking about whether it can happen, were you actually in a very real place with it? Were you very much emotionally attached to it? Could you feel the results? Could you feel the outcome? Could you feel what it would be like when you have that, when you truly are being in that place? Could you feel it? Was it real? Did you have that sense of emotion, that sense of power, that sense of urgency that behind it, the push, emotional push? Did you have that when you were thinking positive thoughts? When you were thinking negative thoughts, was it very fear? Was it very powerful? Was it very dark? Was it very, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not going to have this. You get that because there's that very scared, fear, dark kind of without it place that has a lot of power. And it's a similar thing. It's an emotional response. It's that powerful response of the negative. Hence the point of the question, are positive thoughts more powerful than negative thoughts? That is kind of how these get weighted. So it's no longer now a pound of feathers and a pound of brick. Oh no, it's a ton of bricks and a pound of feathers, right? Like, it is a huge difference now, and one starts to weigh more. Now, which one is it? Depends. Now, I know a lot of us, it is that fear that can come into play. Now, I've talked about this on other shows. Some people, I don't know, it gets good, bad results. It works for me. This is what I do. If something scares me, if there is an outcome of my manifestation that I'm going to create, right? So I'm going to create more, let's use an easy one. I'm going to create a more successful YouTube channel. All right. Well, what's the biggest thing that can't happen? Like, what if I don't do that? What's the opposite? Like, I don't mean I don't have an outlet. I mean, I could keep doing this regardless, right? But not increasing in success would mean that, like, nobody watches it. Well, that was what it was like for a little while when I first started doing it. Like, big whoop. I'd still probably keep doing it because it's fun for me. I did for a long time when nobody watched. Now all of a sudden people are watching, right? So it's very cool. Like, but that's the biggest fear that can happen. So maybe it's not getting back with your specific person. If that's the worst thing that happens, like for me, when I was looking, at similar situations, the worst thing that would happen is I don't get who I'm after. I don't get this situation. I don't get to be with them. That's the worst thing. If they choose that they want to be with someone other than me after everything I've been, all the kindness, all the love, or whatever, like blah, 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 right? Then so be it. I wish them a happy life. And that was where I left it. Like, that's the worst thing that happens. I'm sure I'll move on. It wasn't the first time in my life that things have taken me down a certain path. And sometimes when I get to the end of the road, right, it's not a cul-de-sac. I thought it was a cul-de-sac. This isn't a cul-de-sac. There's another street. Oh, crap. Okay. All right. Well, let's see what the hell's down there, right? Like, life's just been interesting for me. It is what it is. So, again, you have these experiences that can shape you for sure. There's no question about it. So when it comes to the manifesting, a lot of what I've been talking about, certainly the thought transmission, give them your rainbow or whatever, send them your rainbow that I just did yesterday, the same kind of concept really comes into play here. It's that power that we give to our focus, that emotional power. So what we think, what we say, what we do is what we're focused on. That's our focus, right? And then the power is kind of sort of that belief, but then you can also throw a little bit of an emotional kind of thing to it. You can kind of perceive it from different levels. It just depends on what you're trying to manifest. But in the case of your specific person, you can really connect with them on an emotional level, truly feel them from a loving sense, feel them from a physical embrace, feel them from a very passionate, very base chakra level as well. On top of all those things, do that simultaneously. Send that feel that feeling, embrace that feeling, and that is what you are transmitting, and that is the power you put towards your manifestation, towards that thought that you were having. You were imagining dancing with them at your wedding or whatever, and that's where you teared up, right? You started tearing up, you felt it, you were just so in love, you could feel that. That is super powerful. So if you're doing that for the positive, hugely heavy, hugely strong for just 5% of the time, very powerful. If your negative response is that, oh, no, he's not going to think I'm a good person, and then you're like, nah, it's not a big deal. Yeah, I'm a good person. Of course I am. And whatever he chooses is what he chooses. Again, for me, I sometimes just poo-poo it off as like, okay, that's the worst thing that you could throw at me. All right, shush part of my mind that keeps wanting to bring this up. That really, that's all you got is that? All right, well, great, thanks again. But this over here, did you see what I just experienced here? You can hush. You can hush, silent one, right? Still spent 5% of the time, but it was like a dialogue with that part of my brain, and it wasn't nearly as emotionally and charged as what I just experienced when it made me tear up. Again, that's that positive thing, way more powerful, way more heavy, way more strong. Again, if you're doing the same thing and they're both emotionally charged, they're pretty, I mean, they're both heavy, but they're still kind of even. Pound of feathers, pound of brick, right? Same thing. So understand that that really is one of the big parts of when we're manifesting. What we focus on is what we create more of, right? But then on top of that, it's that belief, it's that emotional charge. Those things that come in behind your focus are what give it true power. That's how you speed things up, if you will. You get it from that angle. You find a way to ignite that emotion behind it. That's why a lot of the techniques talk about seeing it, talk about visualizing it, talk about experiencing it in some way. Talks about putting you in the driver's seat to test drive it, just so you know what it feels like, the smell, right? Or that person, seeing them, being with them, the dance, all these things are meant to inspire that emotion. That's why you do it in the technique. That's the point of that in the technique. Otherwise, just think about it and it'll happen. I mean, truly, without doing all the other stuff, it'll happen. Just think about it, give it focus. Yeah, this is going to happen. Cool. Woohoo. And a week or two later, it might, right? Whenever. When you put that emotion behind it, it's probably going to happen like, in a few days, relatively speaking, right? So, yeah, it makes a big difference to put all that behind it, right? And there you go. That is the power of our manifestation. So, does one win over the other? That depends on what you're doing. That's why I frequently also talk about paying attention to what's going on inside of us, guys. That's all. You're telling yourself what to do every day. When the things pop into your head, that's good. Rejoice. I know it's contrast. I know it sucks, but it's like, hey, this is what you do. Hey, this is what you keep doing wrong. You're like, oh yeah, I am. Nice. Now I can make that stop. Like I said, all I can do is share what I do. I see things, see patterns I do. I'm like, but you do that too. And it's like instantly it's that, I'm eating crow, egg on my face. Like you're right. I do that. I can't criticize until I stop doing this myself. And when I stop doing it myself, I realize the whole entire thing goes away. No, nobody's suddenly doing it anywhere. No one's annoying me with this behavior anymore because I've stopped doing it. It's interesting how these things work out often in our lives. Anywho, it's Dan RadioStyle. Hope you guys all like. If you enjoy, please share, thumbs up, like the videos, do all that stuff. Subscribe. You can click that little picture of my face if you want. That'll get you subscribed, and I always appreciate that. Those are some of the greatest ways that you can support my channel. I always appreciate Thank you so much and have another wonderful day.